My daughter's scream tore through the summer air before I even saw the gun. 1 second she was laughing in the community pool, splashing in the shallow and like any carefree 12-year-old, and the next, HOA Karen was standing over her, hands shaking with rage, a black handgun pointed straight at my little girl's forehead. "Get out! You don't belong here," she screeched, her voice echoing across the water. Neighbors froze. Kids stopped playing. Even the lifeguard stood in stunned silence as my daughter raised her trembling hands, tears streaming down her cheeks. I felt my heart drop. For a split second, everything slowed. The sunlight on the water, my daughter's terrified breathing, the metallic click of Karen cocking the gun. I sprinted, shouting her name, desperate to reach her. But before I could, something happened that no one in the entire neighborhood will ever forget. Everything changed in one explosive moment. If you're a parent, you already know. Your entire world can change in one heartbeat. One moment you feel safe, watching your child live a normal day, and the next you're running toward them praying you're not too late. That's exactly what happened to me at our neighborhood pool that afternoon. I thought it would be a quiet Sunday. My daughter just wanted to swim for an hour before dinner. I had no idea we were seconds away from facing something straight out of a nightmare. Before we continue, I want to know something from you. Which city are you watching this from? Drop your city in the comments. I read every single one. And if you're new here, take 1 second and hit that subscribe button. These stories are real, emotional, and sometimes unbelievable. And trust me, today's story is one you will remember for a long time. Now, let's go back to that moment. The pool was full of families enjoying the summer. Kids jumping in, parents chatting, the usual weekend piece. My daughter was in her favorite blue swimsuit, her hair braided, smiling like she always does when she finally gets to relax. And then she accidentally splashed water near the edge, right where HOA Karen, the self-appointed guardian of the neighborhood, was standing. Instead of brushing it off like any normal human, she snapped. Her face twisted with anger. She stormed toward my daughter, shouting about rules, permissions, and unauthorized residents. But no one expected what she did next. No one expected her to pull out a gun. Not in front of children. Not in broad daylight. Not over pool water. And as I ran toward my daughter, I didn't know that everything, our neighborhood, our safety, our lives, was about to flip upside down. The moment Karen raised that gun, the entire pool area fell into a dead silence, one so heavy it felt like the air itself froze. Kids who were splashing just seconds earlier now stood stone still, water dripping off their arms. Parents clutched their towels, their mouths open, their bodies unable to move. The lifeguard, a teenager who probably never imagined he'd see anything more serious than a scraped knee, stared in paralyzed shock. My daughter stood there shivering, her toes gripping the wet tiles, her lips trembling. "Pee, please?" "I didn't mean to," she whispered. Karen's eyes bulged with fury, her voice cracking like she'd lost her grip on reality. "You people think you can do whatever you want. This is MY community. My rules. And your kids splash me." She stepped closer, the gun wobbling inches from my daughter's face. I felt something inside me snap. Every instinct I had as a father surged forward, and I tore across the pool deck. So fast, I nearly slipped. I shouted my daughter's name, my voice raw, desperate. But the moment Karen heard me, she twisted her wrist and pointed the gun right at me. "Stop right there," she barked. My shoes skidded on the wet floor, and I froze, not because I feared for myself, but because any sudden move could make her pull that trigger. I lifted both hands slowly, showing I was no threat. "Karen, put the gun down," I said, my voice shaking. "She's a child. She didn't do anything wrong." "She did." Karen screamed. "She broke the rules. She disrespected me. And I'm done being disrespected." Her entire body quivered, not with fear. No, this was something else. Something unstable. Something dangerous. Behind me, people were whispering, "Is that real? Someone call 911. Oh my God, is she actually going to shoot a kid?" My daughter's chest was rising and falling fast, her eyes filled with terror. I could see her trying not to cry, but a few tears slipped down anyway. I forced myself to breathe steady. One wrong move, one wrong word, and this could turn into a tragedy no parent ever recovers from. Karen, I said again, softer but firm, look at her. She's just scared. Please put the gun down. She didn't move, but someone else did. A woman sitting on the far side of the pool, Mrs. Dawson, slowly reached for her phone behind a towel. Karen's eyes darted toward the movement. She snapped the gun in that direction. Don't even think about it, she shrieked. Anyone moves, and I fire. Mrs. Dawson froze mid-reach, her hands trembling. Karen, sweetheart, an elderly man near the chairs tried to say, put the gun down. Please, let's talk. You all hate me anyway. Karen shouted back, you all think I'm crazy. Well, who's crazy now, huh? Her voice cracked, teetering between rage and something broken. My daughter whimpered softly. That sound, so small, so helpless, nearly tore me apart. I leaned forward slightly, trying to shift her attention toward me. You don't want to do this, I whispered. You're angry. You're upset. But this isn't the way. Karen's breathing grew sharp and uneven. She looked at me, then at my daughter, then back at me again. She splashed me, she muttered. She knows the rules. You all know the rules. She's 12, I said gently. She's a kid, Karen. Kids splash. No. Her voice grew darker. Not in my neighborhood. Not without my permission. Her hand tightened around the gun. My heart dropped, and then someone ran. A man in a red shirt, one of the visiting dads, suddenly sprinted across the deck behind Karen, not toward her, but toward the gate. He yelled, I'm getting help. Karen whipped around and fired. The sound cracked through the air like lightning. Kids screamed. Parents ducked. Water rippled violently as the shock echoed. The bullet hit the metal gate, sparks bursting off it as the man dove out of the way. He hit the concrete hard, groaning in pain. Karen turned back to my daughter and me, her chest heaving. See what you made me do, she yelled. See, this is why I have to be in charge. My daughter squeezed her eyes shut, sobbing harder now. I had to do something. Anything. Slowly, inch by inch, I began stepping forward again, keeping my hands up. Karen, listen to me. You can fix this. Just put the gun down. Her head shook wildly. No, you don't tell me what to do. Nobody tells me anything. Her fingers twitched on the trigger. Daddy, my daughter whispered. Please. That single word almost broke me. I had to keep her talking, had to keep her from pulling that trigger. So I said the one thing I knew might shift her focus away from my daughter. Karen, I breathed. If you're going to point a gun at someone, point it at me, not at her. My daughter gasped. People behind me whispered in horror. But Karen stopped. Her eyes flicked toward me, confusion cutting through her rage like a thin blade of reason. You, she muttered. You want me to aim at you? Yes. I kept my voice steady, even though my entire body felt like it was shaking. I'm the adult. I can handle it. She can't. Karen stared at me, her mind clearly unraveling, trying to process what I just said. She lifted the gun slightly, now pointing between us, unsure. Good. Uncertainty meant hesitation. And hesitation meant time. Time to think. Time for help to arrive. Time to keep my daughter alive. Just then, a phone buzzed behind Karen, loud. Someone who didn't silence their device. Karen spun around violently, raising the gun again, and that's when my daughter made a sound I'll never forget. A scream, not of fear but pain, because she had slipped. Her foot slid on the wet tiles. She fell backward, hard, hitting her arm on the pool ladder. Karen turned back instantly, her attention snapping to my daughter's cry. And in that moment, just for a split second, the gun dipped. My chance. I lunged forward. Not fully, not recklessly, but enough to step between Karen and my daughter, blocking the gun with my body. People gasped. Karen jolted, startled by my sudden move. Move, she yelled. No, I said. Not until she's safe. She aimed the gun directly at my chest. But now, something in her eyes changed. Fear. Real fear. Like she finally understood she was standing on a cliff she couldn't come back from. And that's exactly when the sirens started screaming in the distance. Karen's whole body stiffened. No, 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 she muttered. You called them. You all called them. The panic in her voice was different now. Not angry, not powerful, but terrified. She took a step back, and I didn't know it yet, but what she would do next would shock every single person in that neighborhood, even more than the gun. Because Karen was about to make a decision nobody expected. The distant wail of the sirens grew louder, fast, sharp, urgent. Karen's grip on the gun loosened just a hair, but not enough to make me breathe easy. Her eyes shot toward the entrance gate, then back at the crowd, then at me. She was cornered, unstable, and terrified. That combination was more dangerous than anything. No, no, they're coming for me, she muttered, stepping backward until her heel touched a pool chair. They're always coming for me. They all want me gone. Karen, I said slowly, keeping my palms up, the police are coming to help, not to hurt you. You can still calm down and walk away from this safely. Safe, she shrieked, her voice trembling. After this? After they betrayed me? After you embarrassed me? She jabbed the gun toward different people around the deck, random faces, terrified families who didn't dare breathe. One mother pulled her toddler behind her like a shield. A teenage boy clung to his little sister. Karen's voice cracked again. You all talk about me behind my back. Call me insane. Call me a control freak. All I want is order, rules, respect. The sirens were louder now, maybe a minute away. I took half a step forward. Karen put the gun down. Please, my daughter is in pain. You've scared everyone enough. Don't make this worse. She snapped the barrel toward me so fast I froze in place. Stop talking. Stop. Her chest heaved violently. Sweat dripped down her forehead. She didn't look like a villain anymore. She looked like someone drowning in her own madness. Then, a voice cut through the tension. Karen. A man. Older, bald, wearing a maintenance uniform. The pool janitor, Mr. Collins. He stepped out of the storage shed, hands shaking but raised in front of him. Karen, sweetheart, put the gun down, he said softly, as if speaking to a frightened child. You know me. You know I don't want you hurt. Karen's face twitched. Her lip trembled. For a split second, she looked almost human. You knew they didn't listen to me, she whispered. You knew they treated me like garbage. Yes, he said gently, but this isn't you. Karen's eyes filled with tears, real tears. All I wanted was for someone to take me seriously, she choked. But they all laugh at me. They all think I'm nothing. The sirens were now right outside the gate. Karen's panic spiked again. No, and oh, they'll arrest me. They'll destroy my life. She swung the gun wildly. People ducked. Children cried. My daughter whimpered behind me, holding her injured arm. I knew what I had to do. Not rash, not aggressive, but something to keep her talking until the cops could intervene from outside. Karen, I said, keeping my voice low, calm, steady, I'm not laughing at you. No one is. You're overwhelmed. You're hurting. But hurting a child won't fix what you feel inside. She blinked, staring at me like she didn't understand how to respond. You don't know anything about what I feel, she snapped. You're right, I said, honestly. I don't. But I do know that you didn't wake up today planning to point a gun at a 12-year-old. Something pushed you over the edge. Her voice cracked. They? Before she could finish, a loud megaphone boomed outside the gate. This is the police. Everyone stay calm. Drop your weapon and step away from the civilians. The entire pool seemed to hold its breath. Karen's eyes widened with pure terror. No, I can't go to jail. I can't lose everything. She started pacing back and forth, the gun waving dangerously close to several people. Karen, honey, Mr. Collins said gently, listen to them. Put the gun down. Don't tell me what T.O. do, she screamed, spinning so fast the gun pointed directly at him. He froze. Everyone froze. The cops outside shouted again. Drop the weapon, Karen. Now. Karen's breathing sped up until she was gasping. I can't, I can't, I can't, she cried. Her knees buckled. Her shoulders shook. She looked like a woman seconds away from collapsing. But then, her eyes snapped toward me again. You, she whispered. This is your fault. If your daughter didn't splash me, none of this would have happened. My stomach twisted painfully. Karen, don't put this on a child. She disrespected me. She's a kid, I replied. She didn't mean anything. She did. Karen screamed again. And now, I'm the one who's going to lose everything. I swallowed hard. Then I said something I knew might throw her enough off balance to buy more time. Karen, if you want to talk about respect, then talk to me. Not her. Her eyebrows furrowed. What? You want someone to take you seriously? Then talk to an adult. Don't terrorize a little girl. Karen blinked, confused at the sudden shift. Talk to you? Yes, I said, keeping my eyes locked on hers. Me. You're angry at me, not her. A murmur rippled through the people behind us. I kept going. Let her sit down. Let her breathe. She fell and hurt her arm. Then, slowly, carefully, I added, You want control? I'm giving it to you. Point the gun at me. Talk to me. My daughter let out a tiny sob. Dad, no. But Karen, she lowered the gun slightly, her eyes narrowing. Why would you do that? She asked, genuinely confused. Because I'm her father, I said, and protecting her is the only thing I care about. For the first time, Karen's expression changed. Not softening, no, but something inside her hesitated. She pointed the gun at me instead of my daughter. People gasped. My heart hammered in my chest, but this was better. This was safer. You think you can manipulate me, she hissed. You think you can trick me into surrendering. No, I said calmly. I think you're smarter than this situation. I think you're scared, and you don't want to hurt anyone. The police megaphone roared again. Karen, we see the weapon. Drop it now. Karen flinched so hard she almost fired by accident. Her hands shook violently. I can't, she whispered. I can't let them take me. I can't. Karen. Then everything exploded at once. The pool gate burst open. Four officers rushed in, careful, slow, their weapons raised. They spread out, forming a semicircle, giving her nowhere to run. Karen screamed, a high-pitched, terrified sound. She spun around, the gun jerking wildly toward them. Drop it, the cops yelled. Drop the gun now. My heart nearly stopped. If she pointed that gun directly at an officer, even for a second, it would be over. I stepped forward instinctively, shouting, Karen, don't. She turned toward me again, and in her eyes I saw something I didn't expect. A flicker of surrender. A moment of clarity. A desperate plea for someone, anyone, to tell her she wasn't beyond saving. But it lasted only a second, because at that exact moment, something happened behind her. Someone moved. Someone she didn't expect. Someone who would change the entire situation in the most shocking way yet. And that person was my daughter. She stood up, with her injured arm cradled, tears on her cheeks, shaking like a leaf, but standing. And the second Karen saw her move, everything changed again. The moment my daughter stood up, the entire pool froze again, like time snapped into slow motion. She was shivering, holding her injured arm close to her chest, but her legs still wobbling beneath her. Her eyes were red, terrified, yet she stood anyway. Even the police hesitated for a second, unsure whether to tell her to sit or stay still. Sweetheart, no, sit down. I whispered urgently, but she didn't listen. Karen whipped around so fast I thought she'd fire by accident. Her eyes widened, shock, confusion, and something almost hurt flashing across her face. Why? Why are you standing? She shouted, voice cracking in a way that didn't sound like fury anymore, just panic. I told you to stay down. My daughter's lips quivered as she tried to speak through the pain. I just want to go home. Her voice was soft, small, broken. Something about that voice hit Karen harder than any police command. No, Karen stammered. No, stay back. Don't move. The cops tightened their formation, hands steady but ready. Ma'am, an officer said firmly, "Keep your weapon pointed away from the child." Karen didn't respond. She was staring at my daughter as if she saw something she couldn't comprehend. My daughter took a shaky step toward me. Her foot slipped again slightly on the wet tile, and she winced from the pain in her arm. "Stop walking." Karen screamed, pointing the gun directly at her again. But this time, my daughter didn't freeze. She cried, but she didn't freeze. She whispered, "You're scaring everyone." For the first time, Karen's grip faltered. The gun trembled. Her jaw shook like she was debating whether to drop it or fire. "No one ever listens to me. Unless I yell," she muttered. "No one ever hears me." Her voice cracked again, and then unexpectedly she started crying. Real tears. Hysterical. Broken. Not the rage-fueled Karen everyone feared, but a woman unraveling in front of a neighborhood. The police exchanged quick glances. Karen put the gun down. The lead officer said, gently this time, "You don't want to hurt her. You don't want to hurt anyone. Take a breath. Look at the child." But instead of calming her, the softness made Karen more unstable. "No, and oh, everyone's watching me," she screamed, her voice echoing off the pool walls. "They'll say I'm crazy. They'll take my house. They'll take everything." Her panic was spiraling uncontrollably. My daughter cried harder now, looking at me like she wanted me to help but didn't know how. I stepped forward again, slowly, hands still raised. "Karen," I said softly, "listen to me. Just me. Not the crowd. Not the police. Not the HOA. Look at me." She snapped her eyes toward mine. "You think you're the hero here, don't you?" she whispered. "You think you're protecting her. But I thought I was protecting this community." "You can still fix this," I said, voice barely above a whisper. "No one has been hurt. Not really. You can put the gun down, and we can all walk away alive." "My life is already over," she cried. "You don't get it. They'll arrest me. They'll take everything. I'll have nothing." "You have a choice," I said firmly. "Right now. This second. And whatever you choose will define the rest of your life." Her eyes darted around, desperate, frantic. "Stop talking to me," she yelled. Then something happened that nearly made my knees buckle. Karen pointed the gun at herself. She pressed the barrel under her chin, her hands trembling so violently I feared she'd accidentally pull the trigger. Parents screamed. Kids hid behind chairs. The cop stepped forward, alarmed but careful. "Ma'am, drop the weapon," one officer shouted. Karen let out a sound, a painful, broken sob. "No one cares about me. No one ever has. I'm tired. I'm so tired." And then, my daughter spoke again. Not loudly, not boldly, not heroically, just honestly. "You're hurting, but hurting people doesn't make the pain go away." Everyone turned to look at her, even cops. Karen's hands shook harder. Her eyes filled with confusion, pain, disbelief. My daughter sniffled. "I didn't splash you on purpose. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you upset." Karen blinked, slowly, like her brain froze at those words. You're sorry?" She sounded stunned. "You are apologizing to me?" My daughter nodded gently, tears spilling over. "I don't want anyone hurt. I just want to go home." The quietness in her small voice cut deeper than any scream had. Even the officers softened, watching the scene unfold like something fragile was happening in front of them. Karen lowered the gun half an inch. Just a little, but enough. I saw my chance. "Karen," I said, almost whispering, "a child is apologizing to you, even when she shouldn't have to. Let that mean something. Let that be the moment things don't get worse." She looked between me and my daughter, trembling. I didn't want this," Karen whispered. "I never wanted to be the villain." "You're not the villain if you stop now," I said. "But if you take one wrong step, you can't undo it." The sirens outside had quieted now. The neighborhood had gone still. Karen's hand loosened. The gun dipped lower, 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 until suddenly, bang! A loud noise behind her made her jump. A pool umbrella collapsed from the wind and hit the concrete with a smack. Karen panicked. She jerked up the gun, again, and pointed it directly at the lead officer. Time froze. Don't. I yelled, but my voice came too late. In the same second, the gun pointed toward the officer, the crowd screamed, my daughter gasped, and the cops reacted. They didn't fire, but something else happened. The officer closest to Karen rushed forward, grabbing her wrist in a flash. Another officer moved from the left, tackling her from behind. Karen screamed as the gun clattered to the ground, bouncing across the deck. People shrieked. Kids cried. Neighbors covered their mouths in shock. Karen fought like her life depended on it, but the officers restrained her quickly, pulling her hands behind her back as she sobbed hysterically. No, let me go. I didn't mean it. Please, please, she screamed. My daughter collapsed to her knees, sobbing from fear and relief. I rushed to her immediately, dropping beside her, pulling her into my arms. It's okay, I whispered into her hair. It's over. It's over. You're safe now. But I didn't know then, not even for a second, that what happened after Karen's arrest would be even more shocking. Because this incident, this chaos, this moment of terror was just the beginning of what the HOA had been hiding. And soon, we would learn the real reason Karen snapped that day. A reason far darker than anger over pool rules. The ambulance lights flashed against the blue water, turning the pool deck into a blur of red, white, and fear. Paramedics rushed in, checking on the man who'd been shot at earlier, helping my daughter with her injured arm, and calming the hysterical neighbors who still couldn't process what they had just witnessed. Karen, meanwhile, was handcuffed and sobbing uncontrollably on the concrete, the officers trying to get her to her feet. She looked nothing like the power-hungry, rule-obsessed woman who had terrorized my daughter just minutes ago. No, now she looked hollow, collapsed, broken. I didn't mean to, she kept whispering. I just needed them to listen. But the officers weren't listening to her grief. They were focused on ensuring the weapon was secured and the scene was safe. I didn't care about her. Not at that moment. My attention was locked on my daughter. Her arm was swollen, scratched, possibly fractured. She sniffled into my chest as the paramedic examined her. You're incredibly brave, the paramedic told her gently. You did great. But she didn't feel brave. She felt shaken. Shaken in a way no child should ever feel. I thought she really was going to shoot me. Her voice cracked into tears again, and I held her tighter. You're safe now, I whispered. I promise you. But promises felt fragile in moments like this. Because safety, real safety, had been shattered today. As the officers escorted Karen toward the police car, something unexpected happened. She suddenly stopped struggling, turned her head, and looked directly at me. Her eyes were swollen, red, wild, but also pleading. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, she said shakily. They knew. They knew what they were doing to me. I frowned. What are you talking about? But before she could answer, the officers tugged her forward. Ma'am, keep moving. Karen jerked her head back one last time, her voice breaking. Ask them. Ask the HOA. They set me up. Then she was pushed into the back of the car, the door slammed, and the sirens wailed as they drove her away. Neighbors turned toward each other, whispering in shock. What did she mean? Set her up how? She's trying to save herself. No, Karen's unhinged, but she's not totally wrong. HOA's been acting strange lately. That last comment made me pause. The HOA. Of course. Everyone had been complaining for months. Higher fines, sudden rule changes, aggressive notices, threats of property violations. Just last week, families received a letter about increased surveillance and new enforcement protocols. And Karen. Well, Karen had practically become their attack dog, their enforcer. But something she said replayed in my mind. They set me up. Set her up for what? I didn't want to think about Karen anymore. I wanted to take my daughter home. But as we were leaving, the HOA president, Mr. Adams, walked briskly into the pool area. He was tall, sharply dressed, and always carried himself like a politician who believed he was running for office. Fake smile, rehearsed sympathy, a tone that screamed, I'm in charge. Oh, my goodness, he gasped dramatically. What happened here? Are you all right? People glared at him. Some crossed their arms. Others rolled their eyes. Because everyone knew one thing about Mr. Adams. He always showed up after the damage was done. Your board member pulled a gun on a child, someone shouted angrily. Mr. Adams blinked as if shocked, then sighed dramatically. Yes, unfortunate, very unfortunate. Karen has always been a bit emotional. We've been monitoring her behavior for months. That was a lie. We all knew Karen had been empowered, encouraged to enforce every ridiculous rule they created. Monitoring? I snapped. She almost killed my daughter. You put her in authority knowing she was unstable. Mr. Adams raised both palms. Sir, please, let's not jump to conclusions. No one could have predicted this. Another lie. A woman near the lounge chair shouted. You gave her a list of residents to watch last month. Another parent added, and you told her to write people up for the tiniest things. Mr. Adams cleared his throat, suddenly uncomfortable. Those were standard HOA procedures. A father yelled back. You told her to crack down on rule violators. Your words. Mr. Adams straightened his blazer. Sir, the HOA has responsibilities. I cut him off. What responsibilities justify arming a woman with a gun? He froze. Because everyone heard what I said. What? Wait, Karen had a gun. Did the HOA know? Did they authorize it? Why was she patrolling at all? The community buzz grew louder, more furious, more united. Mr. Adams swallowed hard. I don't know anything about a weapon, he insisted. Karen acted independently, but his eyes darted sideways. His voice wavered. His story cracked. Something didn't add up. Before I could say another word, he turned toward the group and spoke louder, the politician mask snapping back on. Everyone, let's stay calm. The HOA board will conduct a formal review. We'll send an email update. For now, please return to your homes. As if people were supposed to forget what just happened, neighbors exchanged looks. Anger simmered. Fear lingered. But above all, suspicion ignited. We were leaving when Mrs. Dawson jogged toward me. She said something to me, she whispered, urgently, before the police pulled her away. What? I asked. She said, I warned them this would happen. I begged them for help, they ignored me. They used me. A chill ran through me. Used her? But that's not all, Mrs. Dawson continued. She told me the HOA was planning something big, something they didn't want residents to find out. What kind of something? She shook her head. I don't know, but she looked terrified, not crazy. That didn't comfort me. Not at all. Because if Karen, someone who lived for rules and structure, felt used, cornered, manipulated, then this wasn't just a random outburst. This was pressure, escalation, a breaking point forced by something bigger. My daughter tugged my shirt with her good hand. Dad, can we go home? Yes, I whispered, picking her up gently. We walked toward the parking lot, passing groups of neighbors who stared at the pool like it was a crime scene. Mr. Adams stood to the side, making quiet phone calls, sweating, pacing, looking nothing like the confident HOA leader he presented himself as. When we reached the car, I buckled my daughter in carefully. She looked exhausted, drained, still crying silently. I brushed her hair from her forehead. It's okay, I whispered. You're safe now. We're going home. But deep inside, a cold fear settled in my chest, because Karen's final words kept echoing. Ask them. Ask the HOA. They set me up. And something told me. Karen wasn't lying. Something was happening inside that HOA. Something dark. Something hidden. And what happened at the pool was not the end. It was the beginning. The drive home felt longer than it ever had before. My daughter leaned against the window, her eyes half closed, tired from crying and from the shock that still rattled inside her. Every time we passed a stop sign or a speed bump, she winced from the pain in her arm. When we finally reached the house and stepped inside, the silence felt different, heavier, like the walls knew what happened and were holding their breath too. I sat her on the couch gently while I called the hospital to schedule an emergency visit for her arm. She clung to me the entire time, terrified that if I walked too far away, something else might go wrong. Dad, will she come here? Her voice was barely a whisper. No, honey. Karen is with the police now, I reassured her. She can't hurt you. She nodded, but I could tell her mind was stuck in that moment. That gun, that scream, that look in Karen's eyes. After settling her with a blanket and ice pack, I stepped outside on the porch for a moment, needing air. The sky was turning orange with sunset, but the beauty did nothing to soften the knot of anger and confusion inside me. What did Karen mean? They set me up. Asked the HOA. They knew. She wasn't a saint, but she wasn't stupid either. That kind of desperation didn't come from nowhere. As I stood on the porch, my neighbor, Tom Jenkins, walked over. Tom lived across the street, quiet guy, 3 kids, ex-military. He had been at the pool today. He had seen everything. You good? Tom asked, crossing his arms. Trying to be. I replied. He nodded, eyes dark. Your daughter, she's strong. Stronger than most adults I know. I sighed. She shouldn't have to be. No kid should, he agreed. There was a pause before he added. Look, there's something you need to know. I turned to him sharply. What? He glanced around cautiously before lowering his voice. Karen came to my house 2 weeks ago. What? Why? She was different. Not yelling. Not bossy. She looked scared, Tom explained. She told me the HOA board was putting pressure on her. Real pressure. What kind of pressure? He exhaled slowly. She said they were threatening to fine her, evict her, remove her from the board if she didn't start enforcing rules more aggressively. She said they'd cornered her, told her she was disposable if she didn't comply. My stomach dropped, and it gets worse, Tom continued. She told me the HOA wasn't just enforcing rules anymore. They were planning something. Something like what? I asked sharply. He shook his head. She never said, but she mentioned new contracts, new policies, something about forcing compliance. She said the HOA president was hiding things from residents. My blood ran cold. Mr. Adams, the man who showed up after everything, the man who always had an answer, but never the truth. What was Karen supposed to do? I asked. Tom rubbed the back of his neck. She said they gave her a list of houses to target, people they wanted to drive out. A chill crawled up my spine. Drive out? Why? Tom looked me dead in the eyes. Because those houses will be worth a lot more if the HOA hands over the land deal they're negotiating. My jaw clenched. Hard. Are you telling me, I said slowly, that the HOA is trying to force families to move so they can approve a land deal? Tom nodded grimly. There's a development company coming into the area. They want certain lots, and the HOA is negotiating behind everyone's back. That's illegal, I said sharply. That's the thing, Tom replied. They know, and they don't care. They want the money. My stomach twisted tighter. And Karen? I asked, where does she fit into this? Tom hesitated. She told me they threatened to expose her personal issues if she didn't cooperate. Her medical records, her debts, her violations, everything. So she was being blackmailed. Yes, he said. And when she pushed back, they threatened her harder. My head spun. So Karen didn't snap because of a splash. She snapped because she'd been pushed to the edge, cornered, isolated, weaponized, and she broke. I felt anger boiling again, not at Karen, not anymore, but at the HOA. You think Mr. Adams knew how unstable she was? I asked angrily. Tom scoffed. He knew exactly. He used it. I clenched my fists. Hard. Because if the HOA had weaponized Karen, if they had pushed her until she snapped, if they had created the pressure that led her to pull a gun on a child, then they were responsible for everything that happened today, and they were trying to hide it. I'm going to confront him, I said. Tom grabbed my arm. Not yet. Why not? Because the HOA is pulling strings, Tom warned. They're powerful. They have the board, the money, the contracts, and the legal team. If you go alone, they'll crush you. So what? I do nothing. No, he said firmly. You gather evidence. You build a case. You expose them. His words hit hard. Expose the HOA. Expose Adams. Expose the corruption that drove Karen insane. I took a deep breath. Where do I start? Tom reached into his pocket and handed me something, a small USB drive. "What's this?" I asked. He hesitated. "Something Karen gave me. She said if anything ever happened to her, if she lost control, if she was arrested, if she disappeared, I should give this to someone who still had a conscience." My heart jumped. "And she thought that person was you," Tom said. I stared at the USB drive, feeling its weight, heavier than anything I'd held that day, except my terrified daughter. "What's on it?" I asked. Tom shook his head. "I don't know. She told me not to look. She said it was dangerous." Dangerous. That word echoed, and suddenly, everything connected. Karen wasn't just unstable. She was terrified. Terrified of what she knew. Terrified of what the HOA was planning. Terrified of what they would do to her if she didn't cooperate. They didn't set her up for a breakdown. They set her up for destruction. When I walked back inside, my daughter was asleep on the couch, peaceful for the first time since the nightmare began. I knelt beside her, brushing her hair gently. "I'm going to protect you," I whispered. From Karen, from the HOA, from all of them. But as I held the USB drive, a cold realization gripped me. Whatever Karen recorded, whatever secrets the HOA was hiding, whatever truth lived on that little device, it wasn't just dangerous, it was explosive. And once I plugged it in, once I saw what Karen left behind, everything in our neighborhood was going to change forever. I waited until my daughter was asleep, curled under a blanket on the couch, her breathing finally steady. Her injured arm rested on a pillow. Seeing her like that, so small, so fragile, reminded me exactly why I couldn't let this go. Why I couldn't ignore what happened today. Why I couldn't let powerful people hide behind rules and policies while they destroyed families. I took the USB upstairs to my office, shut the door quietly, and plugged it into my laptop. For a moment, the screen stayed black. Then a folder appeared. HOA_private. My heartbeat picked up speed. I clicked it. Inside were multiple files, audio recordings, scanned documents, emails, and a video file labeled, "If you're watching this." I clicked the video. The screen flickered, and then Karen appeared. Not the wild-eyed, trembling Karen from the pool. She looked calm, heartbroken, exhausted, like someone who had been fighting a war nobody else saw. "Hi," she said shakily. "If you're seeing this, something has gone wrong. Very wrong." She swallowed hard. "I tried. I really tried. I tried to do everything they asked, but the HOA board, they're not who people think they are. They're not protecting the community. They're using it." My breath caught. Karen continued. "They want the land. They want the new development deal. The investors promised them 6 figures each if they got rid of problem residents and made space for new properties." My jaw tightened. They gave me lists, names, families to pressure, people to scare. They wanted fines, violations, harassment, whatever it took to make people leave voluntarily, so the HOA could sell their homes behind their backs. She wiped her nose. "I know I became the face of the board. I know everyone hated me, but they made me do it. They threatened to expose my private medical records. They threatened to evict me, bankrupt me, kick me out of my own house." A tear rolled down her cheek. And when I said no, they pushed harder. They told me if I didn't crack down, they'd make sure I regretted it. I didn't know what they meant until last week. She leaned closer to the camera. "They planted things in my yard. Fake violations. False complaints. They made it look like I was losing control. They documented it. They were building a file to blame me if anything went wrong. They wanted a scapegoat." My stomach twisted. Karen whispered. "They planned the pool confrontation." My blood ran cold. "They knew your daughter swims every Sunday. They told me to be there, to discipline any rule breakers. They wanted an incident, not shooting, God, not that, but something dramatic, something they could pin on me." She covered her mouth as she cried. I panicked. I snapped. I'm not a monster, but I was drowning, and they pushed me until I broke. The screen froze for a moment before Karen spoke again, softer, shakier. "If anything happens to me, please don't let them hurt more families. Please help the community. Don't let the HOA destroy people the way they destroyed me. The video ended. I sat there, stunned, staring at the screen. Karen wasn't innocent. She pointed a gun at my daughter. She almost ruined everything. But she wasn't lying. The HOA used her, controlled her, weaponized her, and now they wanted her erased. I clicked the next file, an audio recording. Mr. Adams' voice filled the room. Karen is unstable. She'll break soon. Perfect scapegoat. Once she does, we can finalize the deal and get rid of at least 20 households. Another board member replied, "What about the families she goes after?" Adams laughed coldly. "That's the point." I slammed my fist into the desk. My daughter could have died because of these people, because of a land deal, because of money. I opened the emails next. Detailed plans, maps of targeted houses, emails from developers offering bribes, HOA board signatures approving removal strategies. It was bigger than I imagined, and my family was on the list. Target, Lot 97. Reason, vocal about HOA interference. Strategy, escalate compliance pressure. Me, they had been planning to push us out, and when we didn't break, they targeted my daughter instead. At that moment, a car door slammed outside. My head snapped toward the window. Lights, voices, footsteps. For a split second, I thought it was the police. But it wasn't. It was the HOA board, 3 of them, Adams included. They were standing at the edge of my lawn, and they were looking directly at my house. I unplugged the USB instantly and killed the lights. My heart hammered as I peeked through the blinds. Adams knocked on my door. Hard. "Open up," he shouted. His voice didn't have the fake charm anymore. It was cold, commanding. "We know you have something that belongs to the HOA." My blood chilled. They knew Karen gave someone the USB. Maybe Tom's house was watched. Maybe they saw him come over. Maybe the board was tracking her last interactions. They were here to silence me. I stepped back, quietly, my pulse racing. If they got inside, if they found the USB, this wouldn't just be about harassment. It would be life or death. I ran downstairs and checked on my daughter. She was still asleep. Thank God. Another knock, louder, violent this time. "Open the door now." Adams barked. I didn't move. I grabbed my phone and called 911. As the dispatcher answered, I whispered, "Urgently, I need help. The HOA board from my neighborhood is outside my house. They're trying to break in. I have evidence of corruption, harassment, and exploitation. They're dangerous." The dispatcher responded calmly. "Officers are on the way. Stay inside, sir. Do not engage." Outside, Adams kept pounding. "We can do this the easy way, or the hard way," he shouted. But then, sirens. Approaching fast. Adams cursed under his breath. He motioned to the others, and they rushed back to their cars. Within seconds, the police squad pulled onto my block, lights flashing. Adams sped away before they could stop him. 2 officers approached my door. I opened it, breathing hard. "Sir, we got the call. Are you all right?" "No," I said honestly, "but I have proof of everything." I handed them the USB, and right there on my porch, under flashing police lights, the truth unfolded. They watched the video, listened to the recordings, looked at the emails. Their expressions shifted from confusion to shock to anger. "This is serious," the lead officer said. "This isn't just HOA overreach. This is organized criminal activity. Extortion, harassment, fraud, possibly conspiracy." I nodded. "Arrest them," I said quietly, "before they hurt anyone else." The officer placed a hand on my shoulder. "We will." And they did. That night, the HOA board was taken into custody. The development deal collapsed. Families learned the truth. The neighborhood united like never before. Karen, from jail, received mental health evaluations and treatment. Finally, my daughter's arm healed. Her trauma eased slowly, day by day. And as for me, I promised myself one thing. No one, not an HOA, not a bully, not a corrupt board, not a broken system, will ever threaten my child again. Because what happened that day at the pool, what Karen tried to do, what the HOA hid. It all led to one truth. A community is only safe when people stand up to the monsters pretending to protect it. And this time, we didn't stay silent. We fought back, and we won. If you're still here, thank you. You just watched a story no parent should ever have to live through. A story that could have ended in tragedy, but didn't because good people finally stood up. Now I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done if this happened in your neighborhood? I read every single reply, and your voice matters more than you think. And if you're watching this from anywhere in the USA or around the world, drop your city name below. I love knowing where my community is watching from. Before you go, do one thing for me. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Share this video with one person who needs to see it. Stories like this deserve to be heard, not hidden. Your support helps us bring the truth to light.